Hi, Daniel. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So we're having a phone call this afternoon, you and I are.
Yes,
And you see that CCP is also having a very quick meeting at 1 p.m. Did you get
Right.
that from Tanya?
I do. What time's our
Okay.
meeting?
Okay. Just wondered. All right.
Yeah, I'm not participating in the CCP meeting.
Okay.
I'm opposed to the continuation of our meetings in the electronic format that meeting is for the purpose of doing. So I'm a conscientious objector.
Okay. Well,
As I
that's
see
all-
Steve smirking.
Well,
I've
that's
never
all-
heard it put that way though, but I'm gonna start doing that when I vote no on something on the board. As a conscientious objector, I can't support this.
Well, I'm really frustrated because several of the boards and commissions I'm on are doing this, and they're not doing it because they're afraid to be in the same room together. They're doing it because they want to keep the meetings virtual so they don't have to travel to a place to have a meeting. And so they're using a public health guidance that was crafted to support these efforts to delay as long as possible having to drive across the county to go to a meeting, and that just annoys me.
Well, and I think your point needs to be said, so you should probably go to that meeting and have that said.
I already said it at the prior meeting where
Okay.
the discussion was had of whether or not they should hold a monthly meeting to just prolong.
Yeah.
So, by the way, that discussion is going to come up at this meeting today. You see, there is the item there. It's item number 2.
But we only meet quarterly, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, not actually, it's not quarterly. It's 4 times a year.
Well, 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, then you already know what I'm going to say.
You know, I hadn't thought about it, but it is true. That's basically, because I've had this discussion and I've just blindly gone along because it is much easier just to sit in my man cave and go to a meeting than it is drive somewhere. But you're right. Is it legitimate or not? I don't know.
Well, when I watched the public health order or guidance being created specifically to be the tool present to be available to allow this to happen, that kind of shot my willingness to believe that it was anything of public health related importance. Because it was kind of like, oh, we have this opportunity if we have a public health guidance, so let's get the public health guidance.
Okay. Well, Paul Lee will do a little introduction on that item today, and then Sandra will open it for discussion by the board members, and then you guys will get a chance to decide. But each board and commission apparently has taken action. You know, I'll leave
Right.
that to Paul explaining all that legality stuff. That's it. We're being joined by folks. That's Paul. Hold on, in fact. Here's must have been ringing.
Well, Susan had a message saying that sometimes her name shows up as Anna Friedland, but I don't see Susan
But I
or
don't-
Anna on
But I
here.
don't see either, yeah.
Is that an alias? No.
There she is.
Not an alias. Looks like my actual name showed up.
Yes, we have you here. We've got some good presentations set up today, folks, so I hope you'll all get a chance to stay for all the presentations. So we're at 9:30, Sandra. I don't know
Yep.
how long you want to wait. An extra minute or so or whatever. Yours too.
I think we'll give it a minute or so because I'm not sure we even have a quorum, Anthony. And I'm assuming we have had enough respondents that would be attending today that we
Yes.
should.
We do have a quorum. We're still waiting for Kara Williams. It's the only other member that's not present
Okay.
that stated would be present today.
We'll give her about another half a minute or so and then we'll get started. As Ray said, we do have a pretty full agenda today.
We have the presenters joining us at certain times now, and I'm concerned that they'll join late or we'll go fast or something like that. We'll see how that all works out.
We always move a little faster on this agenda than you think
Yeah, I
we're
know
going
we
to,
do.
Ray. Until you don't need us to do that.
Yeah, everybody talk a lot today, folks.
Okay, let me, I forgot I need to pull the notice up here, so let me do that here quickly. Meeting of October 22nd. Okay, so I will go ahead and open the meeting. First off with our opening remarks. Good morning, my name is Sandra Dickerson, and in my capacity as Chair of the Santa Barbara Workforce Development Board, I would like to welcome you to the virtual meeting of October 22nd, 2021. As a reminder, I'd like to state that the Workforce Development Board is dedicated to supporting our community by providing a first-class workforce system for job seekers and employers alike. We have responsibility for oversight of public dollars, development of effective and efficient programs, and in partnership with the County of Santa Barbara Board of Supervisors, we assist viable businesses and industry sectors that provide self-sufficient wages to our residents. Procedurally, our meeting will be conducted as follows. Members of the public who wish to address the board should use the raise hand button in the Zoom chat feature. WDB staff will then enable the talk feature for the attendee wishing to make a comment. The procedure for this meeting includes the reading of these opening remarks and continues as follows. WDB support staff will take roll. Members of the public wishing to make a comment will then be given 3 minutes each for those comments. WDB staff and our board members may present recommendations for an item on the agenda. Board members may ask questions of WDB staff and other board members. The board may take action on an agenda item. The agenda has been posted at www.sbcwdb.org for your convenience. And lastly, WD board members may only discuss items listed on the agenda pursuant to the Brown Act. Okay. So Anthony, if you'll do roll for us.
Sandra Dickerson,
Here.
Diane Owens,
Here.
Yesenia DeCasas, Adrian Dodd, Petra Gomez, Pat Cuddleston,
Here.
Thomas Lamika,
Here.
Steve Lavanino,
Here,
Susan Mathers, Glenn Morris, Daniel Nielsen,
Here.
Susan Salcido,
Good morning here.
Cesar Valladares,
Present. Good morning.
and Kara Williams.
Here.
Okay, so we have 9 out of 14 members. We do have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. Before we move on the agenda, I would like to welcome and introduce our newest board member, Susan Salcido with Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools. So Susan, we'd like to maybe give you a moment, if you can, to introduce yourself and tell us, a little of what interests you in coming on to join the Workforce Development Board.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Great to see all of you. And Sandra, thanks so much for the warm welcome and the team. I'm really looking forward to serving. As County Superintendent of Schools, my world and focus really is on education and students, but it's really the students who we're focused on ensuring that they have a meaningful diploma when they graduate high school and are prepared for careers that they have interest in, that they have ambition in, and that any system hasn't forced them to choose one or another. And in that career, they're ready for college, they may be ready right for the workforce. And so to me, it's so important to have a continuity of system. I think Santa Barbara County is in such a right size and incredible county where the education system and the workforce as adults really have opportunities for coherence. So programs within the county education office really partner the business community with schools. With internships and volunteer programs, I really am seeking to support that coherence and continuity and the contribution to Santa Barbara County. I just want to say I have about 30 years in education. My husband's a teacher in high school here in Santa Barbara County. We have 2 children in public schools, and we have a very sweet dog as well. So that's about our family at home. Thanks again for the welcome, and I look forward to contributing.
Great. Thank you very much, Susan. Ray, I think we have some reorganization for the agenda.
Yes, I'd like to, on my director's report, I'd like to actually kind of split that. I'd like to do a few comments on the director's report initially, and then defer or continue it until just before the presentations, because there's a part of the director's report that we want to do that directly relates to the presentation that we're going to have. So
Okay.
right after we have that discussion item, I'd like to then conclude the director's report.
Okay. So we're adding that in after our new business item.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Anything else?
No, I just on the roll call, I did receive a message from Petra at the very last minute. She's not feeling well today. She apologized for not being here, but she just wasn't up to coming on camera, that sort of thing today, because she's ill.
Okay. Thanks, Ray. Anthony, do we have any public comments?
No, we do not have any requests for public comment.
Great, thank you. Board communications. This is our area where it's an opportunity, if any of you on the board have any information to share that's helpful to board members in terms of what you're finding happening, for example, in the local labor market, things that are informative to Ray and our staff. This is the opportunity to share those. Does anyone have anything they want to talk about? I'm seeing none. Okay. For my board chair report, I'd like to just take a moment. We've talked about it in the past on some of these meetings. We're all, a year and a half into dealing with COVID. I'm sure all of your businesses and organizations have been as greatly impacted as mine has. Particularly with a lot of people working remote. And I don't know about some of you, but I brought some people back and had to send them home again. So we've been in a roller coaster. But through all of that, I want to take another opportunity on behalf of our full board to thank Ray and the staff who have continued to do, I think, just an absolutely phenomenal job on behalf of the board and all of the work that we are engaged to do. I think they've just continued to have success after success. And I think we can see that in some of our program reports and things that we receive. We've continued to receive a lot of additional funding coming in. I want to thank in particular Julie Smedley, who's just been responsible for a couple of new large grants that we've received. So we just have a lot of really positive things that are continuing to happen because of our staff. So again, I would just like to take this opportunity on behalf of all of us and say thank you very much for the work that you're all doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very, very much, Sandra and board. I know the team, I agree with you. They've been working very hard throughout this pandemic, and we've been adjusting to conditions as they change. And as we all know, things have been changing sometimes on a weekly basis. And so I'm very, very proud of the way that they've been able to continue to work and provide services to the community. And yes, I agree. Julie's had tremendous success in working on some of the grant applications that we've been able to acquire. So again, thank you for that acknowledgement. I'm very happy.
Good. Thank you very much, Ray. And again, thank you to the staff. Okay, Ray, we'll do the first part of your director's report.
Okay. Good morning. The first thing that I want to say, and this is maybe a little bit of a tie into what we were just talking about, because both of our one-stops are fully open. The last time we met, which was in June, the Santa Barbara City one-stop, or AJCC, was not open. I'm at that location right now. That's where my office is. So although you see that nice background behind me, that looks like I'm at the Santa Barbara harbor, I'm not at the harbor. I'm not sitting there having cocktails or anything. I'm at the one stop, and we are fully open. I went out into the lobby, as I do most mornings, to see what the traffic's like. We generally are getting a few people very early in the morning. I suspect that some of those are folks who are homeless, quite frankly, and they are looking for a place to come indoors at, and so they're able to do that. But we're also getting folks coming in asking about jobs, asking who we are, that sort of thing. So that's starting to happen. We're trying to take some numbers to see how many folks are coming per day, and it's still just a trickle at this point. We're getting somewhere between 8 and 12 people per day coming in and starting to use services, that sort of thing. The North County One Stop, or HACC, has been functioning since last November, quite frankly, because we opened that one up again in order to meet the needs of the ag workers who are seasonal, and they have to come in and do some filing for unemployment insurance, et cetera. And so we worked to set up, again, this was in November of 2020. So the pandemic was still, we didn't know where it was going. And we had to set up a lot of distancing and social distancing and plexiglass for that particular location in order to be able to serve the community there. We actually worked with Thomas and the folks at Hancock College as a backup because we were concerned about having too many people standing in line and standing close together, that sort of thing. And so the North County has been functioning fairly well. I don't have the numbers for them, but I understand that they're getting more and more back to normal than certainly we are here in South County. So that's the first thing that I wanted to mention. And I want to thank our partners, especially EDD, for being there with us now. The EDD staff are back and they're providing services too. So that's a good thing. Second thing I want to mention is that our agendas, again, we were talking at the beginning of the meeting about the fact that we meet 4 times a year. And each of our meetings is centered around a particular theme or a particular goal. Routinely, the October meeting is the one in which we approve our overall budget, and we know what we're going to be doing and all of our programs and how they're going to be funded all for the remainder of the year. This year, again, because of COVID and all of the uncertainty around some additional funding that's coming, as you can see on the agenda that we have, we're just approving the WIOA allocated funds, which were provided to us from the federal government to the state, and that came in on time. We have a number of special projects that some of which are being extended. Just recently, we found out that one was being extended for possibly another year. But we also have some new projects that we are fairly sure are going to happen. There's a California comeback plan. There's funding for workforce boards that's in some of the federal legislation that's being debated and deals being struck in Washington, D.C. right now. So we're going to be coming back to you again in January with a more full picture, although we do want you to approve the WIOA budget that we have right now at today's meeting. But today's a little bit, this year's a little bit of a odd circumstances, again, because of COVID, because of new legislation, and the timing is a little bit off. So I wanted to make mention of that. The other thing is a bit of an update. As you will see on your agenda on the item, actually it's on the new businesses item 1, that is item number 3, which is a recommendation for the continuation of operators. I want to make a correction. It says Equus Educational Services. It's actually Equus Workforce Solutions. So that's the proper name for the organization. So I did want to make sure that that was corrected, as well as to point out that within that item, the board memo does speak to a condition of receiving financial documents. Late yesterday, I did receive financial documents from the organization that are being reviewed and will be reviewed with the state folks who are making a requirement that we have a single audit. So I did want to point that out in regards to that. The last thing I want to speak to is that on October 12th, I had the opportunity and the pleasure of doing a informational presentation to the County Board of Supervisors. It was to inform the board, many of who have new members on it, who the Workforce Board is, what we do, our relationship to the Board of Supervisors, some of our accomplishments, and what we're looking at going forward. I think that that presentation went fairly well. I felt good about it. One of the things that came out of it, but it's also consistent with some of the other things that I've been hearing as I talk to folks around the county, especially chamber folks and other business folks, as well as members of the board, has been concern about this thing called labor force participation rate. And that's basically the number of people in the community of working age, and that's basically that's 18 through 64, who are actually in the labor market, who are actually working. And the reason that people would be of that age and wouldn't be working would be things like maybe they're going to school, maybe they've retired early, or maybe they've just decided that they don't want to go back to work. There's been lots of concerns and lots of thoughts about that particular issue, and it's even been on national press. So it's not just Santa Barbara County. There have been articles that I've read in the New York Times, the Washington Post. I've seen it on national TV news where they're asking why is it that there are so many unfilled jobs and there are so many people who apparently aren't coming back to work. So what we're going to do is that I'm talking with our research consultants who did our COVID-19 impact report. And we're going to be doing an addendum to that report that's only going to speak to this labor force participation rate issue. We're trying to design it right now, what we're going to be doing, what the outline is going to look like, but it's not just going to be examining data, it's going to be getting information from people. And we're talking about Santa Barbara County. And then I hope to have the results and the addendum in late January, early February at the latest. So I did want to make a notice of that. And I think that that's something that other workforce boards in California, because we're all having the same issue, may also find themselves doing. So look for that at our next meeting, and I may be reaching out to some of you in between now and the next meeting, as well as possibly a couple of members on the Board of Suits. So
Thank you very much, Ray.
that's my comments, and then I'll defer the rest to after the discussion on the WID meetings, on the WDB meetings.
Great. All right. Thank you, Ray. I'm particularly excited about this new research project that Ray is initiating. Given what I do, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they're able to put together compared to, we've seen lots of speculation out there as to why people are not in the labor force right now. So it will be very helpful to have some actual survey and other data put together for that. Okay, for our first item of old business, or our only item today, we need a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Kara. A second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, all in favor? You can raise hand. Great. Daniel, did that work for you?
Sandra, and I'll just abstain from this one this time. Thank you.
Yes, correct. Thank you, Susan. All right, any opposed? I don't see any opposed, Anthony, so that is approved then. Then for new business, we did, in the interest of having the presentations today and leaving enough time for those, we have a number of items that are combined together in our consent agenda. The idea is that we can approve those with one motion. If there is an item that someone would like to have discussion about, please let us know now, and we'll have to pull that. We will pull that one out of the consent calendar and then make a motion to approve the rest of the items. So I guess first, is there anything that anyone would like to pull from the consent calendar and have discussion about? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So what I would look for then, please, is a motion to approve the consent.
Chair
agenda.
Dickerson, this is Paul.
Yes,
Before we do that, I recommend that we take any public comments if there are any.
great, thank you. Anthony, do we have any public comments?
I'm checking right now. We do not have any public comments.
Okay, great.
Sandra, this is Susan. So pardon my interruption. I really don't have a desire to pull anything, but if I had a question related to just some of the services within them, can you just let me know what would be an appropriate approach to ask those? Perhaps I could talk with Ray later or ask them here, however you'd like for me to do that.
And Ray, I'll kind of defer to you if you want to do those kind of individually, or add those to the agenda for today if there's specific just service questions.
Did you have a specific question, Susan? I'm certainly more than willing to answer that. Otherwise, as a new member, you are going to have an orientation with us. I'll do a one-on-one orientation with you.
Okay.
We'll speak to a number of our operational methodologies and how we operate, as well as what we're looking for in board members, and possibly recruit you for one or more of our committees, that sort of thing.
Got it. I think an orientation would be great, and I can hold my questions till that time. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Susan.
Sure.
And thank you, Ray. Don't miss an opportunity to add to our committees.
Yeah. We're running well ahead of time, so.
Okay, great. So I'll go back to, again, if there's no public comments, if we have a motion to approve the consent items.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Thomas. Any second?
Second.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, all in favor, either raise hand or raise your hand in your functions. Okay. Great. And any opposed? Yeah. Okay, so that has passed. Thank you very much, everyone. Ray, I think I understood this is where you want to come back now to your director's report.
Well, no, after this item. So,
Okay. Got it. So we're going to have Paul then is going to discuss our next item on future of our WD meetings. Paul?
Good morning. Today I'm here to provide information about the updated teleconference requirements under the Brown Act. Now, before COVID, the Brown Act historically has always allowed meetings to be held by teleconference, provided that certain requirements were met, such as posting the location of all members and allowing the public to attend meetings at all locations. But in light of COVID, executive orders suspended compliance with those requirements, which then allowed legislative bodies like this board to meet remotely, as we have been for the past year and a half. Those executive orders have since expired, but recently AB 361 was enacted, which amended portions of the Brown Act to allow legislative bodies to meet remotely, like our meeting today, if certain requirements are met. Now, those requirements are, number one, that we remain under a state of emergency, and number two, the public health officer recommends social distancing. Today, the agenda is set up to, one, receive and file this information, and two, to allow the board to provide further direction on how it'd like to meet for future meetings. So if the board would like to return to in-person meetings, that option is permitted and no further action is necessary. But if the board would like to hold meetings remotely, like we are today for future meetings, then what's required under AB 361 is that within every 30 days, the board needs to hold a special meeting and then approve by a majority vote to hold meetings remotely. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we'll now turn this over to Chair Dickerson for further discussion.
I have a question. You said we have to meet every month to vote if we want to meet remotely?
Yes, that's correct. Under AB 361, the requirement is that every 30 days, the teleconferencing requirement would need to be approved by the board.
And you have to do that virtually, or could it be by a written vote?
It would be virtually, provided that the board approves meeting remotely.
Through the chair. So, I mean, if a meeting's not scheduled until like January, February, could you just not meet and then 30 days before actually meet and decide it?
No, so under AB 361, it's explicit in that the renewal of the teleconferencing would have to be done every 30 days.
And for purposes of information for the members, if you look at your agenda package, the very last page in the agenda package is our proposed meeting schedule for the year 2022. So you can see the actual dates of our meetings, and we have location to be determined there. But we have the times and the dates. So we're meeting January 28th, and then March 25th, and June 24th, and then October 28th.
Okay, well, again, through the chair then, for me, if I think it's risky, you won't see me there. If we're doing person, I'm just telling you right now, if I think it's risky. I mean, we've had some family members, my wife's lost some family members, I've lost some family members. And I'm fully vaccinated. I'm going to get my booster on Monday. I mean, but I am still, you still have, like, I think a 1 in 11 or 12 chance you could pass away from it if you're fully vaccinated. My doctor's lost a couple fully vaccinated patients. He's warned me about, he's not even going out to eat any place now. He says, no, it's not worth the risk. So I'm just saying, for this member of the board, if it looks to me like it's risky at all, you won't see me there at that meeting.
Sandra, you're on mute.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you very much, Chuck. Does anyone else have any particular comments, either pro or con, in terms of the idea of remaining virtual for some period of time?
Oh, this is Daniel. I'll spout off. I do not think that we should continue to meet virtually. There was a prior time in the pandemic where there was social distancing and mask wearing mandates. The social distancing mandates have not existed for quite a number of months. Even during the time when we had our most recent spike, the county's response to that was for everybody to wear masks indoors, and not every county in the state did that. And California state chose not to reimpose a mandatory mask mandate throughout the state, and chose not to require any sort of social distancing. And our numbers are headed back down drastically. We're at the new case rate now is the same as it was in the middle of July. And many more people have become vaccinated since the middle of July, and many more people have become eligible to be vaccinated since the middle of July. So with our next meeting not until January, I would not be supportive of meeting every 30 days to vote to keep it virtual, so that would be in place for January. I think a lot is lost on all of the meetings I participated in. A lot is lost by holding the meeting virtually.
Thank you, Daniel. Is there anybody else that's got comments?
Yes, this is Kara. I would say if we had certain guidelines for in-person meetings, 6 feet apart, wearing a mask, and fully vaccinated, or some sort of testing requirement. If it's just meeting in person, no one's wearing a mask, we're not 6 feet apart, and it's indoors, I would not attend in-person meetings.
Okay. Thank you, Kara.
Through the chair.
Yes.
And if the board was interested and the meeting was in person, I mean, I would offer my meeting room in Buellton because it's a bigger room. Now it's got a low ceiling. It's only got a 9-foot ceiling, but there's room to space out. Now, if there was much of the public showed up, for public. Comment, then it might get a little tighter. Steve, I think you've been there before, different people have been there, or find a location where that would accommodate that. And I agree with Daniel. I think we should continue that, because the 30 days doesn't make sense, but there's something might change by January when everybody goes indoors and everything happens. It might be totally different, and there might be some kind of something come up where there's an emergency. Mr. Lee might come up and say, hey, now they're allowing this because of this, things gotten worse. So I agree. I don't think we should meet every 30 days to do that, but I think we should be ready to do what we can, because I'm concerned about having a quorum for these meetings if people feel like it's risky. Even we got a good quorum today, but we haven't always had, an overwhelming quorum, and even at these remote meetings where it's easy to attend the meetings.
Right. I would agree.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the public coming, so I definitely would not be comfortable unless all those requirements were met.
Okay. Okay, any additional comments? Steve, did I see you?
Yeah, I guess I would just think that it's 3 months away till our next meeting, and the way this has gone, who the heck knows what's going to happen. I don't want to meet every 30 days just to extend this thing. And I think Chuck hit it on the head that if something bad happens, significantly changing the track that we're on, there's going to be another emergency issue ordinance, and something will come out from public health again. So I'm fine just waiting. And if January comes around and we're back into full-blown mode, there'll be some additional guidance. And if there's not, and somebody's not comfortable, if you miss one meeting, then we wouldn't be meeting again until April or May of next year. So, it's not the end of the world either. So.
And so, Paul, I want to make sure I understand if that's the choice that is made. And so we have a decision to have our January meeting in person. That means that we could not have a remote option, that some members who aren't comfortable could not join us via a Zoom link if the majority are in person, for example?
Sure. What we could do is that the teleconferencing option under the Brown Act still exists. What I mean by that is that each, the notice would have to include the address of where each of the board member who desires to participate remotely, their address would have to be put on the notice, the agenda, and would have to also be open to the public. So that's another alternative to the situation.
And that's what I see as the challenge with that, is that if those who are, participating remote are doing it from their home, for example, I'm back in my office if I chose not to go to a meeting in person because of those dynamics, but I can sit in my office, my business office, not my home. I'm not sure I want my home address out there to the public. So I think that's just something that everybody would have to evaluate and weigh how they participate in that January meeting. Any other comments?
Yes, through the chair.
Yes, Chuck.
Now, I've had several of our meetings where we've had combination meetings where those that want, in fact, our finish it meetings every month we've had is, if you want to come remotely, you can, or in person. The majority come in person because we have the big room and you can spread out, and we have a camera set up and everything. It's probably not quite as good for the person that's remote, because it's hard to see everybody in the room like you can in a Zoom meeting. But I don't know, if there's an option for that, or if there's a, and is there a way to apply for some kind of variance and stuff too for certain situations? But if that was possible, then the people that were comfortable, showing up could show up, which I have a lot to do that. Then the ones that wouldn't could be remote, and that way would meet our quorum obligation if there was a way to do that.
And I think that's a question to Paul. Would that be something that was feasible?
Sure, that would be feasible so long as the meeting room is open to the public and that address is set forth in the agenda.
Okay. And Daniel, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, the Community Correction Partnership is looking in the direction of possibly into next year, moving to the model of having a meeting in South County, a meeting in North County in conference room type of environments, with the noticing being appropriate so the public could show up at either, but with the idea that it keeps the number of people in the room down because we're utilizing two locations. So that's a way to keep the number of people in each room down and still not have to be noticing to the public personal addresses.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? So I don't feel after this discussion like I have kind of a clear direction on the preference of the board, because I've heard some, different opinions. Maybe, Paul, is it okay if I just kind of take kind of a census first of kind of where people are before we look for a motion?
Sure, that's acceptable. Yes.
Okay. So maybe if everybody would use your raise hand feature, if you would prefer that we plan to have the January meeting in person. And then I think the idea is someone mentioned that if we have another emergency ordinance issued again, we could step back and relook at going back to a virtual environment. So if that would be acceptable to you. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. You're saying with that option of still joining virtually, would that still be part of the consideration?
Yes, because I heard from Paul that we can't do that. And then each person would need to make their decision. Are you going to be at home with your home address that has to be made public, or, you know, at another location that, you know, you're not publicizing your personal home address?
And Sandra, this
Mhm.
is Steve. If anybody in the Santa Maria area doesn't want their home address, I have plenty of office space at the county building and you could come and participate. If you're not comfortable putting your home address, we'll put up the county building.
Okay.
And Chair, if I may just reiterate that the location, the separate locations would have to be open to the public as well.
And I can make our area in Buellton open too, if I just had enough advance notice. That's be a common place that people come, just right off the freeway by Firestone. We're not far.
Right.
It's kind of an easy on and off for people. Just as long as I know ahead, I'll make sure I have someone and have it open for anyone. And we have camera and speaker set up and everything, so we did that.
Okay. It looks to me as though we have more than half of the board members today who that would be acceptable to. Do one of you want to make a motion regarding this?
So I'll make a motion that we do not pursue the option of meeting every 30 days to maintain our ability to meet remotely at our next meeting. And that the director of the Workforce Development Board notify board members prior to the next meeting if any changes have occurred in state or local guidance related to restrictions for meeting in person.
Thank you, Daniel. Any second?
I second.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I couldn't tell who that was. Thomas. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Thomas. All in favor? Let's do a raise hand on your features. That's easier for Anthony.
I'm sorry, just so I'm clear, there will be a dial-in option.
There will be an option for remote participation. That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
And we'll make sure that the instructions for select, so you're really clear on the location you're selecting to use for a remote location meets the requirements.
And Sandra, I'd prefer it if we actually did a roll call vote on this so
Okay.
that we can be certain.
Okay, Anthony, I'll let you do the roll call then, please.
I'm sorry, I have one more clarifying question.
Yes, Kara.
So if you're dialing in, your address has to be made available. So obviously you want to, if you don't want your home address, dial in from your work, but we're not saying that your location where you're dialing in has to be open to the public.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so that would be a problem. Our hospital is not open to the public. And I would be doing it at work at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. So if you're not visiting a patient, if you don't have a vaccine, you can't, or a negative test, you can't, and now that might be different in January, but traditionally we're not open to the public. So that would be a problem for me. But I just won't attend the meeting. So I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Or we may be able to come up with another location, another board member, for example. As Steve said here, someone could also come and sit in my conference room at my office, for example. And, you're going to wear a mask going through my office if we're still masking indoors, but, you can do what you want in the conference room by yourself. So I think there can be other options.
Yeah, staff will work to set up locations throughout. And certainly in South County here in Santa Barbara City, as well as other places as needed. So we'll work with the board for setting up those locations if this is where we're going.
Right, because I think the goal for all of us is we want to have as much participation among board members as we can in a way that one complies with what we have to do, but also provides opportunities for everyone to feel as safe as they prefer to be. And everybody's, on a little bit of a spectrum at this point of what their comfort zone is. And again, we don't know where January is going to be. So I think the more flexibility we have with that, the better. Hey, Anthony, do you want?
Excuse me,
ahead.
Susan, I just wanted to say, I do think the challenge here with AB 361 is when you have quarterly meetings. I mean, it's one thing that if you have meetings every 2 weeks, every month. We just don't know where we'll be for the January meeting. What I'm listening in for is flexibility. I'm listening in, I think I'm hearing that. So I think what I'm hearing is if things progress and get better, we're looking at an in-person meeting, but with an option for dialing in. I guess something that I wasn't really clear on, and I'm not sure we'll get to it, honestly, is we talked about either the state or local emergency. You know, I think I heard something like if it changes. It currently is a state of emergency in the state, and local public health has provided a recommendation to be 6 feet apart, or excuse me, social physical distance. So are we saying that if that changes or remains, I don't know what it means to have it change. But again, we may not get that clarity here. I guess maybe we will, but otherwise I think what I'm hearing is we want to move towards meeting in person with the opportunity to dial in and have some flexibility there. Kara, understanding, hearing what you're saying too, though, because your space isn't public. Yeah. Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, Anthony, then we'll do a roll call.
Roll call on the motion. Sandra Dickerson,
Approved? Or favor, excuse me.
Diane Owens,
In favor?
Pat Cuddleston,
In favor.
Thomas Lamika,
In favor.
Steve Lavanino,
Yes.
Daniel Nielsen,
I,
Susan Salcido,
Aye.
Cesar Valladares,
Aye.
and Kara Williams.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Ray, Paul, is there any last item we need to do with that, or is the vote sufficient at this point?
Sure, two items. Number one is that we should also open it to the public if there are any public comments to this item. And also, I recommend that the board take a motion and vote as to receiving and filing this information.
I'm sorry, the motion was to what?
To receive and file the information that was presented today.
Got it, okay. So first, Anthony, any public comments?
No new public comment requests. No.
Okay. So then if we can have a motion, please, to receive and file the information.
Motion.
Thank you, Chuck. Second. Susan, thank you very much. Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Great. Thank you, everyone. Any opposed? I'm not seeing any opposed. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Let's all just hope that things continue on our better path over the winter time, and that January we're all not having to be as concerned at this point as we continue to be now about COVID. We'd like to get it all behind us as quickly as we can. Okay, Ray, I think we're ready for our special reports.
Yes, thank you. Just one bit of information that came in that I wanted to mention before I go on to have a presentation on our 2 new grants that I'm going to be asking Julie to do for us. I just did get information about our September unemployment rate for the county, and it's at 4.7%. And that's down from 5.5% that we had in August. And it's similar to where we were a year ago. California is at 6.4%, so we're below California. So we'll be putting out a news release on the unemployment rate for September, but I just figured I would share that since that's still a germane issue for all of us as we're looking at recovery and what recovery means and who's participating in the recovery. So in keeping with that theme, one of the things that's happening as we're coming out of the pandemic or recovering from the pandemic, and I'm not sure what term to use at this point, is that there are lots of opportunities happening out there for grants and funding, and often those are targeted opportunities, meaning you have to serve a particular group or you have to serve a particular area or a particular industry sector. So I know that we have on our agenda today presentations from REACH and from the Tri-County Energy Group, but I also wanted to point out or have the board informed on our two latest grants that we received since our past meeting. Again, these are federal grants. We already mentioned that Julie Smedley was our lead staff who pulled together the grant applications and the partnerships. And so I'm going to turn it over to Julie and let her talk about each of those grants, and then from there we'll go to the REACH presentation, and then from there we'll go to the Tri-County presentation. There's going to be a lot of good information coming to you about opportunities and things that we're doing to help with the recovery, and hopefully we're able to work together with our partners as well as other folks who are receiving other types of funding. So with that, Julie, are you ready?
Yes. Hi, Ray. I'm ready. Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Julie Smedley, and I am a program analyst for the board / grant writer. So like Ray mentioned, I'm going to share just 2 quick PowerPoints so we can give the board and everyone a few more details on what these exciting grant projects we have going on. So I will start with our Pathway Home. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so the first grant that I'm going to share about is our Pathway Home. This is kind of an overview of just the few topics we're going to cover. So a program overview, our project planning phase, and then the partners' roles and responsibilities. And definitely feel free to let me know if you have questions as I go through the PowerPoint. So a little bit about Pathway Home 2. This is a grant that is funded by the Department of Labor and their Employment and Training Administration. And the funding amount that we were awarded was $2.499999. The grant performance period for this project is actually 42 months. So for like our typical projects, we have about a year of follow-up. They actually gave us a few months to develop and have our startup activities. And then we actually have about 2.5 years of providing direct services to our job seekers. So the purpose of this pilot program is to provide eligible incarcerated individuals with workforce services prior to release and to continue services after release by transitioning the participants into re-entry programs in the communities to which they will return. So these grants are really job driven, and we look to build connections to our local employers that will enable the transitioning offenders to secure employment. So essentially, we're providing pre-release services while they're incarcerated, and then they will transition with the same case manager, and they'll continue to receive career services, opportunities for classroom training, and then on-the-job training. So here is our target population. So we are serving a total of 250 participants over the duration of the grant. The job seekers have to be 18 years or older, convicted under federal, state, or local law, and incarcerated. They must reside at the time of enrollment in the project in a state correctional facility or local or county jail. So we will actually have case managers and staff that will have access to the jails, and they will complete all the enrollment paperwork, the orientations, all the eligibility items while they're located in the facility. They must have a release date scheduled between 20 to 180 days of the individual's enrollment in the program. And then upon release, they're scheduled to return to reside in Santa Barbara County, and then they must have the right to work. So like our traditional WIOA programs, they have to have the right to work to receive, our paid work experience, supportive services, any types of those services tied to funding. And then the next two slides will just share the project partners that we have on board for this program. So of course, the Workforce Development Board and the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office are the lead on this project. We have Alan Hancock that will be providing our job seekers with job preparedness, career awareness, individual training to our participants, and then as well as Santa Barbara City College, who will be providing those same services in Santa Barbara. And then our fifth project partner is Community Solutions, Inc. So this is an organization that actually currently provides services in the jail. They provide them with assessments, career assessments, project plans as they transition out of jail. And so we will be leveraging some of their existing services with additional services that we'll be providing through this project. Number 6, Freedom for Youth. This is an agency that we've had a lot of experience working with, more specifically in our youth programs, but they also provide services in the jail, and we will be utilizing them for a mentoring type service. So we have a small group that will be receiving individualized mentoring services from Freedom for Youth. And then of course, our America's Job Centers of California, and then Good Samaritan that we will be providing some transitional beds and housing as these job seekers transition out of jail. And then I'll share with you the project services under this program. So number 1, case management. They will be receiving a discharging plan. They will be receiving a risk and needs assessments and substance abuse education. Number 2, our basic skills assessment, work readiness and life skills, career counseling, job development, occupational skills training, and then job ready, job preparedness services. And then post-release, so once they transition out, they will have work-based learning opportunities. So like most of our traditional programs under WIOA and our other special projects, we do have a work experience component that these job seekers will have access to. They will also be receiving financial assistance, financial literacy, and then of course, job placement assistance. And then like I mentioned earlier with our Good Samaritan partner, they will have an opportunity to have shelter and temporary housing provided for them, and then additionally supportive services. So anything related to their job and training pathways and services, they will receive those supportive services to support those goals. So historically, it's a lot of paying for their internet, providing them with hardware if they're attending online training, all of those things that will support reaching their job and training goals. And then mentoring services. So that will be provided by Freedom for Youth. And then again, our performance measures, very similar to our, or identical to our WIOA programming. So we will be measuring employment, their earnings, attainment of an industry recognized credential, and then recidivism, and making sure that they're retaining their jobs once they enter permanent employment. And that's kind of an overview of Pathway Home. So before I move on to the next one, are there any questions on this project? No, okay, great. So I'm going to stop share and then I will share the next PowerPoint for career.
Julie, I was just going to mention that at Hancock College, we're really excited about this project and want to thank Ray and you and Luis, everyone who's worked on it. And so we're excited because we're expanding a Rising Scholars program to serve a lot of different populations that are justice involved, and this is one of them. So we're excited to be your partner.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, we're really looking forward to it too. I know it's been a little complex because there's so many moving parts, but yeah, it's exciting once it gets off the ground. And just to give everyone an idea, so project services will actually begin January 1st, or direct job seeker services. So that will be when we get all our partners on board and we start enrolling participants. Okay, so let me share the last PowerPoint. Okay, so this is the most recent grant opportunity that we were awarded. It actually happened, I think, 2 to 3 weeks ago. So this is our comprehensive and accessible reemployment through equitable employment recover National Dislocated Worker Grant. So when we are in discussion with this project, we just refer to it as career. Table of contents, I'll just give you a quick overview, share a little bit about our project partners, and then the actual services that will be provided. So about career NDWG, again, it was funded by the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration. We received $2.5 million for this project, and the grant performance period is 24 months.
So we got the extra $1 on this one.
We did. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, they gave us $1 more on this one.
So a little bit about career. So the purpose of this project is to help reemploy dislocated workers who are most affected by the economic and employment fallout from COVID-19 pandemic. In particular, it's going to help those historically marginalized. This project also supports strategic partnerships, digital literacy, and providing accessible resources to all of our community members and our job seekers. And the team will tell you, I'm super excited about this one because historically, a lot of the funding that's provided by these special grants are for direct job seeker costs. But with this project, we're actually able to purchase hardware, implement strategic planning opportunities, use some of the funding for marketing and outreach to really get a hold of our underserved community members. And so I was really excited that this one was awarded to us. So our target population for this grant, we are actually serving 300 participants. And really, it's all job seekers that were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. But we placed an emphasis on serving our English language learners and underserved community members. And then you'll see this last bullet, we will be serving 100 job seekers that will actually receive intensive career services. So the other 2 participants will be those community members coming in to get digital literacy training, or maybe they just need some extra help with how to utilize Zoom for job interviews and things like that. So 100 will receive intensive, and then really anyone that comes through any of our centers will receive services under this grant. So I anticipate that we'll exceed the 300 mark. So oh, sorry, do you have a question? No, okay. So project partners under this program, Workforce Development Board, of course, community-based organizations, education providers, and then employers. And the reason why we have this slide broad is because we're still working with developing our partnerships with community-based organizations throughout the community, our employers, and then of course our education providers. So right now we're in the discussions of really trying to finalize what role each partner will be playing. And then once those are developed, then we can definitely share what exact partners we have under this project. And then we have 2 slides for project services. So the first one are the access points. So this project will support 9 different access points throughout the community in underserved areas. So right now we're really doing the work to identify these underserved communities and areas. And what we really envision is placing 1 to 2 kind of computer setups in these access points that when job seekers need services from us, they're able to walk into that access point, log into a computer, and connect to our main AJCCs. So the one in our comprehensive center in Santa Maria, our center in Santa Barbara on Ortega, and they'll be able to actually connect with the staff. And so what we envision is that these access points will mimic our comprehensive center and our center in Santa Barbara. And then one of the other exciting things is we're looking into purchasing computer kits. And so I've seen this idea in other areas where job seekers come in that don't have the hardware are actually able to rent out laptops, video cameras, headphones for long period of times to support, any of education program that they might be in online or their job search. And then number 2, we are looking to have community navigators. So these community navigators will work in partnership with the access points, and they will actually be the staff that will be identifying the needs and the services for our job seekers that are looking to return to work or access job and career services. And what we envision is these staff will split time between the access points and our AJCCs. And then we are hoping that these community navigators will actually case manage some of our English language learners that need more of that hand holding, that extra support, more guidance on how to navigate, a world that really is all in English. And so they are the ones that are going to provide that extra support for some of those English language learners looking to return to school, get training, and then continue their job search. And then number 3, our marketing and outreach. So we are looking to hire a consultant that will develop a county-wide marketing and outreach campaign for this project. Again, there'll be an emphasis on really reaching our English language learners and our dislocated workers that have been long-term unemployed because of COVID, or those that have exhausted all of their unemployment benefits. And this marketing and outreach person will work in collaboration with our community navigators.
And I'll jump in here, Julie, and just point out again to the board, WIOA and the workforce system does not normally allow for marketing. Okay, this is an exception to the rule. And this is a federally funded grant where they are in fact allowing marketing. They allow something called outreach, but there's different parameters about what outreach is as opposed to marketing. And so this is a first. So we're really excited about that this is the first time that we can actually market who we are.
Yeah, exactly right. And we're really going to take advantage of it. And what I envision is that we will have a plan that we could really roll over to all of our other projects and programs. So we'll have a county-wide workforce board program, marketing and outreach plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, so project service number 4, strategic partnerships. We have an opportunity to hire a consultant that will develop a strategic partnership toolkit. And their role will be to identify and outreach to agencies that support this target population. Number 5 are a virtual AJCC app. So what we envision is developing an app that will provide services to our AJCC. So if someone needs to access our job and career services through their phone, if they're at home, they'll be able to log on to this app and they'll see and be able to be connected to all of our program partners. So EDD, state disability, our operators that operate our youth programs and our other special projects. We envision it also being a program matching application. A customer would be able to go in, complete an intake form, and it will populate what programs are best suitable based on their needs, their demographics, and some of their barriers. We hope that it will also be a job search engine tool. And then there will be an opportunity to input resources for employers. So this is kind of what we envision the virtual app. And like what Ray mentioned, with the marketing and outreach, the strategic partnerships, and this virtual AJCC app, these are traditionally services and projects that aren't supported through our WIOA funding. So again, this is why we were super excited to get this grant, because we're able to throw funding into it and support it and really execute some of these ideas that we've had in the past, but weren't able to follow through because of the lack of funding. And then number 6, WIOA services. So our traditional WIOA services will also be supported by this project. Again, we'll serve 100 job seekers. They will receive individual training accounts, so classroom training, paid work experience opportunities, and then supportive services. Performance measures, again, it will include employment, earnings, attainment of industry recognized credentials, and then retention of employment. And that is it. So any questions, let me know. Thank you.
So again, I want to thank you, Julie, for this presentation. And I know that that's a lot for the board to probably, sink in about all of what we're able to do. But it does give you an idea of the broad program aspects that we're doing as far as recovery effort. This is a recovery effort driven and funded special project. So it's one of the few that has been funded throughout the nation. I'm not sure what the exact number that were funded. I think there are like 3 other or 4 others in California, that sort of thing. But this is an opportunity to try something new. None of us have lived through a pandemic before, unless we were born in 1918, and I don't think that's true of anybody. So, we're all trying to figure out how to recover and how to best utilize these funding dollars that are being made available to us. And so we'll keep the board up to date on this project and other projects as frequently as possible, and maybe some sort of a newsletter that has some updates that we'll be doing going forward. But I'll stop talking and see if board members have questions about these 2 projects before we go on to the REACH presentation and then to the Tri-County presentation.
Thanks, Ray. And I see a hand raised for Daniel.
Thank you. So I have a question related to the first grant and the people that are incarcerated. So are we going to focus exclusively on people serving sentences in the jail, or are we also going to be trying to get some participants out of the federal prison?
I'll answer that. It's the jail is our target. That's why we're working with the Sheriff's Department, Daniel. It's the local jail, and also the folks that we're targeting for this program and who will be participating in the program have to be, I think it's 90 days from actual release. Did that answer your question?
Mostly. So I'm just kind of trying to wrap my head around. So these are going to be people that are largely or likely AB 109 people that are serving sentences in the jail for significant crimes?
Not significant crimes. If what you mean are felonies or violent crimes or that sort of thing, no, that's not the population that we're targeting and that we're looking to serve with this particular grant. We've had that discussion with the Sheriff's Department as well as with CSI, and CSI is going to be doing the assessments and the selection of folks who are going to be entered in this project. And Julie and Luis, correct me if I said or misspoke anything there.
But they're all going to be people that have been sentenced and are serving a sentence. So you're not going to be engaging people that are in the jail on any sort of pretrial status or short-term serving a sentence for, you know, some misdemeanor that's only going to amount to a few weeks or so, because you wouldn't have time to engage them prior to their release, right?
Correct, because I think it's between 20 to 180 days of their post-release, right, Luis?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have to be sentenced. We're going to be focusing on those that are in our local jails that are part of what the sheriff called the sheriff treatment program. So those are participants that, to our understanding, those are low risk type of participants, not serious crimes, where we were given the option during our application period to focus on, for example, sex offenders. We chose not to. So the sheriff, in coordination with CSI, it's selecting, it's screening the participants, screening for suitability. Obviously, we're looking for those participants that are ready to enter the workforce. They have to be in the jail. What we talked to the sheriff about was that a lot of the participants that they engage with have a release date of about 90 days. Because initially we thought about implementing some sort of vocational programs and have them complete a vocational training program while they're incarcerated. So we're trying to be a little bit flexible and trying to see what's going to work. But at this point, it looks like a lot of those participants on average are going to be in the jail and receiving services for about 90 days.
Okay, and I would, just from my experience of working with and in jails, I would say that especially during COVID, you're going to have a challenging time having any sort of significant programming or vocational training happening within that environment, given the distance that, you know, they're trying to keep, and they're trying to keep people from moving around a lot and different things like that. So I wouldn't have high expectations about the amount that can be achieved in the jail other than initial engagement and some individualized work on that person's part. So my last question is, so if you've identified a person to participate and you've done your initial engagement, but then they're suddenly released ahead of that scheduled planned release date, which could happen for a number of reasons. So then even though you hadn't, you know, done the in-jail component of that engagement yet, you would just shift that to happening outside of jail, right? You wouldn't drop them because they hadn't stayed in jail for the planned length of time.
Correct.
Yeah. And the last thing that I want to add is with our collaboration with Alan Hancock, with Tom and City College, we're looking for the participants to have an academic advisor, and for us to be able to do that component while they're incarcerated. They're going to have a workforce case manager. Obviously, they're going to have already an assessment and interaction with CSI. And then for a small group, we're looking for them to also have a mentor. So we're doing a pilot mentoring program with Freedom for Youth for a small segment of the population. So it's going to be a big group working with participants. So there's going to be a lot of communication. But again, I wanted to mention that our community colleges are also going to be supporting us with an academic advisor that is going to be assigned to these participants.
And Louis, if I could just mention,
Yes.
we toured the jail, the North County Jail yesterday in Santa Maria, and the county did a beautiful job designing and building it. And so we are going to be able to do quite a bit of programming because you have multiple classrooms, and the use of technology to actually be able to communicate and work with our students in the jails through Zoom or Skype or whatever is going to be really possible. So I do think it's going to be difficult. But the good news with this new design, it's really lending itself nice to training inside the jail, and then also having different vocational areas. So pretty excited about what I think we're going to be able to accomplish with this team.
Yeah, and again, what Thomas is talking about is the new North County Jail. We're also serving the South County Jail, and that's probably more of what Daniel's talking about, where those things are going to be really a challenge. You know, I talked to the chief down here, the chief custodial deputy, all the time, and I know the challenges that he's going through with spacing and COVID, et cetera. So both items seem to be true. Other questions before we move on? Okay. If you think of anything else, again, other questions, feel free to obviously send me an email. I'm still trying to figure out with the number of grants and projects that we're overseeing and working on, how's the best way to communicate on an ongoing basis with the board on some of the accomplishments and how we're moving forward. Obviously, we have the performance committee and the youth committee that's kind of combined, and so that's one way. But there may be something that we decide, as I hinted at earlier, that we want to do as sort of a email written update to everyone. So with that, I'm finally through with my director's report.
All right, thank you very much, Ray. I think we're ready to move to our first presentation with Reach. I'll
Chair,
let you do. Yes.
Chair, this is Paul. Before we move on to the next presentation, I recommend that we take public comments to the last presentation.
Okay, Anthony, any public comments?
There is no public comment requests.
Great, thank you. Okay, Ray.
Yeah, that gave me, I'm glad Paul interjected there, because that gave me time to find my note here. So good move, Paul. Much of what we've been talking about today, and that we'll probably keep talking about in subsequent meetings and other convenings, is partnerships and things that others are doing. I sometimes joke with my team that I almost need a huge whiteboard in my office that I can do some sort of a matrix on, where I can start listing what's going on that we're doing and what other folks are doing, because at some point we really need to know where the gaps are so that we can try to fill those gaps. And we also need to know where the overlaps are, so that we're not duplicating things that other folks are doing. And we also need to know what the opportunities are to collaborate. And so one of our best partners that we've been collaborating with and talking to and seeing opportunities with over the past year or so has been the REACH organization, which is an economic development organization that serves San Luis Obispo County, which is where they started, but then they started serving North County, but they are committed to serving all of Santa Barbara County. And Julie Pruninsky is their Director of Strategic Initiatives, and she's going to speak with us today about some of the things that REACH is engaged in, including a really exciting multiple county application that they've applied for, again, because there's so much opportunities that are starting to spring up now in regards to recovering. And as we all know, workforce and economic development are like two hands, left hand and right hand, and they need to work together. And so we're always very interested and willing to participate in any way that REACH wants us to do that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Julie. There
Perfect.
you are, Julie Pruninsky.
I am. Thanks so much, Ray, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. So as Ray said, I'm Julie Sinton-Pruninsky. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives with REACH. Ray gave you kind of the brief overview of REACH, but I just want to focus in. We are focused on the 2-county region of San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties, uniting the public, private, and civic leaders kind of across that regional scope. Our missions to increase economic prosperity through big thinking, bold action, and regional collaboration. So touching briefly on the REACH 2030 plan, which was launched just at the start of the pandemic. So REACH's kind of overarching goal is to create 15,000 new good paying jobs by 2030. And that's focused really on the kind of $50,000 jobs and above, really looking at, emphasizing head of household jobs, jobs that can allow people both to stay here, who are currently here, and also people to return to the area who might have moved away and want to come back. So if you go to the next slide, Anthony, please. There are 4 main pillars to the plan for the REACH 2030 plan. The first is really a focus on 4 target growth industries and how to accelerate job growth within these industries. And those are agritech is the first one, clean tech and renewable energy is the second one, aerospace, defense, and precision manufacturing is the third, and then technology as a whole is that 4th main pillar. So if you look at that, that's kind of the first priority of creating, how do we create and get to these 15,000 good paying jobs? The second priority and pillar is really focused on creating world-class innovation hubs at 2 of our regional anchor institutions, Vandenberg Space Force Base and the growth of commercial space, which I know you all have seen a lot of in the news. And then the transformation of Diablo Canyon in San Luis County after the decommissioning in 2024 and 2025. The third priority is looking at how to break down these barriers to job creation, particularly related to infrastructure. So thinking about housing, water, broadband, different issues related to kind of those foundational pieces of someone coming here and seeking a job here. And then the 4th one is preparing the residents, and you all were just talking a lot about this, but preparing the residents for these jobs, training programs, skilling, upskilling, reskilling, with a focus on really expanding education opportunities to train residents for the jobs of the future here in the industry. So as Ray mentioned, you can go to the next slide, Anthony, there was just recently at the end of July, the Economic Development Administration announced a $1 billion, well, actually it was a $3 billion tranche of money. And you can see it here, it's broken into 6 buckets. But the bucket that we really focused on was this Build Back Better regional challenge. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the challenge and then the actual project that REACH was the lead applicant on. So these, what the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, so it's $1 billion within just that bucket of money. The EDA's focus was on finding and selecting 20 to 30 economically distressed regions throughout the country to basically propose 3 to 8 projects totaling between $25 and $75 million. They were open to proposals up to $100 million. And so there's kind of 2 phases to this project. So if you go to the next slide, Anthony. So these were focused, the Build Back Better Regional Challenge was focused on supporting regional growth clusters. So they wanted to fund projects that would look at developing out an entire regional basically new industry. It could be expanding on an existing industry, but they kind of called these moonshot things. So looking at a really creative and innovative approach to a new industry or a growth within that industry within your region. So everything ranging from infrastructure projects to workforce development to entrepreneurship and innovation, and really looking at kind of how that development out of that cluster could really transform a region. So again, this was a $1 billion tranche of money that has been focused for this regional challenge. So if you go to the next slide. So the way they're evaluating these moonshot regional clusters was kind of in 4 separate target buckets that they really wanted emphasis placed on. So the first was regional assets. What does the region already have that can contribute to this cluster, and how can it grow? The industry leadership piece is what companies in the industry are already in the region, who wants to be in the region, and where are the growth opportunities and the future employers. The third bucket was on sustainability. So how sustainable is the cluster that you would be proposing? Does it have staying power beyond the life of the grant? And can it reasonably succeed within the region? And then the 4th bucket was focus on equity. So how and what will this industry do to support our most underserved residents? So how can it really transform the region and provide equitable opportunities for everyone? So if you go to the next slide, this slide just kind of shows you how the process was working for this. So there were two phases. So the phase one was a technical assistance grant. These are $500,000 per region. They're awarding 50 to 60 regions across the country with these technical assistance grants. The awards will be made in December. And then that's really just what you will do with that $500,000 is plan for your phase two application. And in phase two, you'll be digging into a lot more of the implementation ideas and really how to bring this cluster to life. And so that they'll select about half of the regions that were selected in the phase one process will be selected for the phase two grant, where then they will be awarded the $25 to $75 million. So by the time the awards for the phase one planning grant are made in December, you have a very short 3-month turnaround to really figure out how to implement that in the phase two application. And then the period of performance for the grant is about 5 years, from September of 22 to May of 27. So you can go to the next slide, I think, Anthony. Okay, so that brings me the long-winded round to what did we submit? So REACH became the lead applicant on this application for what we called the Uplift Central Coast Space and Aeronautics Regional Cluster. So if you go to the next slide, so we proposed a series of 8 projects. So remember, the grant allowed 3 to 8 projects. We received over 90 letters of support for this. We brought together 13 coalition members, and there are 6 counties served. So we teamed up with our REACH counterparts, the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, which serves Monterey County, Santa Cruz, and San Benito County, REACH serving San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara County, and then the Ventura Economic Development Collaborative serving Ventura County. So REACH brought together those 6 counties, these 13 coalition members, around this project and pulled this together. So on the next slide, I can talk to you a little about who those coalition partners were. And so some of them, as I mentioned, were the 3 main economic development organizations. Other partnership organizations were UC Santa Cruz, CSU Monterey Bay, the DART initiative, which is in Monterey Bay and stands for Drone Automation and Robotics Technology. It's an initiative focused on growing out that economic growth opportunity. We partnered with Cal Poly, Allen Hancock, Cuesta, Santa Barbara City College, the Santa Maria Airport, and then also Vandenberg Space Force Base, and also something called the Bob Hoover Academy, which I'll talk to you about in just a second. So you can see that these coalition partners really ranged across the full 6-county area that REACH was focused on for that. So I'm going to walk you through now the 8 different projects that we proposed on the next slide. So you'll see here, there was a wide range that they asked us to look at. They wanted us to look at feasibility and planning projects. The EDA was really interested in shovel-ready projects, so we proposed a couple of those. And then innovation and entrepreneurship, and then workforce development. So I'm going to start with these 2 projects that you see at the top, the Vandenberg Space Force Base Mission Development Zone, and then the Drone and Aeronautics Innovation District. So you all probably heard about the Mission Development Zone proposal that is part of the 6 organization MOU that's part of Vandenberg Space Force Base. So this all came out of the master plan that was created by that MOU group. So this is physical space that the base has set aside for a tech park where commercial space companies can co-locate on the base. There's a potential for the base to move the security gate so that it would sit on the base's land, but would be outside the security perimeter to allow for easier access. So this proposal looked at kind of the feasibility assessments and analyses that need to take place before development can start on that. A drone and aeronautics innovation district, which is a research and tech park through UC Santa Cruz, but it's located near CSUMB, CSU Monterey Bay. And this is called the UC MBEST, which stands for Monterey Bay Education, Science and Technology District. And so that would focus on kind of the feasibility of 3 different elements within that district, which is a workforce education center, a partnership with the Ag and Natural Resources for some kind of a research park there as well, and then a test range for drone testing. So if you think about this project, it's really focusing all the way from vertical launch through to drone and other kind of unmanned aerial vehicles. So those were the 2 feasibility studies. Then we looked at another project that was focused on innovation and entrepreneurship. And this is the Aerospace Incubator Centers Network. This is kind of 3 projects rolled into one. We've called them Aerospace Centers of Excellence. So one of them would be at the UC Santa Cruz campus. One would be at Cal Poly as an extension to the existing tech park that's there. And then one would be in Ventura at the Ventura Tech Bridge at FathomWorks Lab at the port. So you can kind of see here across the map, those span across the entire 6-county region that was proposed. Then we moved to kind of 2 construction projects. And this was a little bit tricky because the EDA wants to see them shovel ready. They want them to, break ground almost immediately upon award of the phase 2 grant. So the first one is extending that we proposed is extending Air Park Drive at the Santa Maria Airport. So my understanding of it is that there's an area within the airport at Santa Maria where the roads do not connect. And so companies can't access different parcels from within the airport property. And so this extension of the road would really improve the traffic patterns and allow businesses to locate there on these vacant parcels. And then the other shovel-ready project that was actually was surprising was that CSUMB has a shovel-ready science and engineering building that could be completed by Q4 of 2025. So when you think about these 2 construction projects, one is focused on kind of the business attraction piece, and one is focused on how to train the workforce. Last kind of 3 projects were 3 projects focused specifically on workforce development. And these spanned kind of K through 16, I would say. So the first one is the I Innovate program expansion. So this is a program focused on K through 12. It's already in the San Luis Obispo Coastal District. So these are makerspace labs that are on all 10 elementary campuses in the district. And there's a teacher training component as well. So they're talking about expanding this out to kind of in a phased approach across the region. So first to a couple of neighboring districts, and then selecting 5 to 6 pilot districts throughout the region to bring these makerspace labs on campuses. And so this has really got at the equity heart of what the EDA was asking. So providing these equitable opportunities for K-12 students in STEM particularly, and kind of getting the next generation interested in science and engineering. Another workforce development one was on the Community College Space and Aeronautics Skills Alliance. So this was a collaboration between Allen Hancock, Cuesta, Santa Barbara City College, but also expanding to all of the community colleges throughout the region. So this is focused on the existing training programs, creating new training programs to really train the entry and middle skill level residents that are needed for the space and aeronautics industry. And again, that would span that full region. And then the last proposed project is something called the Bob Hoover Academy, which is a pilot training program at the Salinas Airport that trains formerly incarcerated individuals to become pilots. And it's in partnership with the Monterey County Office of Education and allows these individuals to earn CTE credits as well. So this would be an expansion of the project and program that they are already running. So you can kind of see that those 8 projects kind of span a wide range, but all focused on space and aeronautics and the growth of this industry here across the 6-county region. So I think the next slide, Anthony, just shows kind of where we landed from a budget perspective. So as you can see, and I'm not going to dig into this because it's pretty dense, but kind of a total of $70 million worth of infrastructure projects. So With this grant opportunity, although the phase 1 is just for the technical assistance, you needed to be able to show and explain how you would utilize that phase 2 part of the grant. So what does this all mean on the next slide, Anthony? On the next slide here, it talks about, so what is the impact of this $70 million investment in space and aeronautics? So the focus is really creating transformational change and opportunity for the Central Coast region. And again, that's a little bit of an expansion of maybe how we all normally think about the Central Coast, given that it's spanning all the way from Santa Cruz down to Ventura. But the idea and kind of the roll up of all of these projects is that if all of these projects were to move forward under this grant, it would create almost 10,000 jobs across the 6-county region, catalyze growth of about 150 companies. We would anticipate and estimate about $500 million in capital investment throughout the region. And then there'd be the upskilling, reskilling, the training of about 2,000 workers a year, depending on the different levels of jobs. And then providing equitable access reaching down to over 30,000 K-12 students if this were implemented across the full region. So that's the Build Back Better challenge, and I'll take questions in just a second, but there's one more thing I wanted to talk about that REACH is actively working on. You can go to the next slide, please. That was talked about a lot at the Board of Supervisors meeting this week related to the ARPA funding. And I just want to thank Supervisor Lavigno and the Santa Barbara County for their support in matching funding for this economic recovery grant. So this is also an EDA grant. This is a grant that REACH has received already, and it's focused on developing a comprehensive economic development strategy. So really what this is looking at is kind of, there would be impact analyses conducted around the 4 growth industries that I mentioned are part of the REACH 2030 plan. We would be engaging industry consortia around these 4 target industries. Obviously, this group would be a big part of that, and we're looking for really broad stakeholder engagement across the 2-county region. It's going to look also at workforce development and training opportunities within the region. This is again now just San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties. And then finally, the creation of a comprehensive economic development strategy, the CEDS. And what this really does is brings together funding opportunity, future funding opportunities. It provides an economic strategy and plan for the region, and it really unlocks future funding opportunities. The Build Back Better Challenge wanted us to talk about the CEDS that exists. And so CEDS exists in Ventura County, Santa Cruz, Monterey, and soon we will also have one as well for the full 2-county region. So that's, I'm happy to take any questions depending on time. Ray, I'll look to you, but that.
Well, thank you. Before I turn it over to Sandra to facilitate questions and answer, again, I want to thank you, Julie, for coming to provide us this incredible amount of information that I think is very important for the Workforce Board to understand some of the other things that are going on that are related to what we're doing, opportunities that may be coming up soon. I noticed that you're doing your recovery plan. I know that the state's going to be asking the workforce system to do a recovery plan. So that may be one of those things that if you've already done something, we don't have to do it, but we can use our funding to do something else. So we'll be looking at ways to braid and to maximize our funding and our opportunities and to continue to work together and certainly on those initiatives that you mentioned that you were looking for input on. Certainly, we'll be there with bells on. And so I'll turn it over to Sandra to facilitate any questions and answers that may come up. And then there'll be the public comment after that before we go into the next presentation.
Great, thank you, Ray. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Steve.
Yeah, I just want to say that I've been through a lot of or witnessed a lot of past attempts at economic development that have kind of petered out or faltered along the ways. And honestly, when Reach started out, I was a little skeptical just because I've seen it before, but I have not seen the buy-in, the activity, the funding, the connections with the governor's office, with elected legislators, with the business community, with Vandenberg Space Force Base. Everybody's always tried to hook them in. And this is the first time in 10 years that the base commander actually came to our board of supervisors and was talking about the importance of Reach and commercial space and all the other programs that are going on. So I know, there's members on this board also that have been through many attempts at trying to generate additional economic activity and maybe looking at it with a jaundiced eye, but I would say that this is our best and strongest attempt, and probably the one that has the most success of moving us forward. So very supportive of their program, and the county, I know, is becoming a partner, which is another first step for us. So I think it's kind of a new day in this whole area.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else? Anthony, any public comments?
No public comment requests have been received.
Great. Okay, thank you, Anthony. Ray, then I think we're ready for our last agenda item, or our next item.
Right. Well, again, thank you, Julie. I was the thing that maybe was surprising to me was the connection to the younger youth that you mentioned as part of your presentation. That one, I think, might also be interesting to Superintendent Salcedo as we're looking and going forward also. So that was the one new bit of information I got today that I didn't expect to see. So with that, thank you again. You can stay on and listen to the next presentation, or if you have other commitments. Again, thank you very much for sharing the presentation with us. So this last item here, I'm going to introduce is from the Tri-County Regional Energy Network, or 3C REN. I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley, so I like to see it when they come up with these catchy little phrases for their organizations and things like that. So I'm pleased about that. Cameron Gray is going to be our lead-off presenter, and he's with the Tri-County Energy Network, and they're going to talk with us today about some of the things that they're doing. There's also a workforce connection. They've already reached out to the Ventura Workforce Board. They want to reach out to us as well as to SLO County going forward. And I mentioned that SLO and ourselves are in a regional planning unit together. And so I may be able to help facilitate that. So with that, Cameron, are you online?
Yes, I am here with you all.
Okay, take it away.
All right, I have a couple slides prepared, so I am going to attempt to share my screen here. Just give me one moment while I do that. Okay. It's telling me that screen sharing is not starting for me, Anthony. I'm going to try one more time and see if I can get it to work, but I might need some technical support from you.
There it is.
All right, there it is. Beautiful. Can everyone see that slide okay?
I can.
All right. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all today. I wanted to provide one point of clarification. I am not a staff member with 3C REN. I am actually a staff member with Community Environmental Council, a nonprofit that's based in Santa Barbara and works across San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. We do have several projects that we are working on with 3C REN. And so that's why I'm here today with my colleague, Danny Edelson, who's also with Community Environmental Council, to tell you a bit about CEC, what we're doing in terms of green, clean workforce development with some partners, and also to highlight how we work with 3C Ren. And so I am CEC's Senior Transportation and Climate Program Manager. And kind of the overview for today's presentation is I'll kick things off. I'll give you a rundown of the workforce development activities and partnerships that we have going so far. I'll hand it off to Danny Edelson, who is with CEC. He's going to walk you through the collaboration that we have going with 3C Ren on a multifamily home energy upgrade project. And then Danny will pass it over to Sean Burns and Ian Logan, who are here with 3C Ren. And they're going to give you an overview of the workforce training and education programs that 3C Ren operates across the 3 counties that I mentioned. And so CEC, for those of you who don't know us, we've been around a long time. We're actually over 50 years old. We were founded in 1970, and we pioneer solutions to the greatest environmental challenges of our time. And that really is climate change here and now. So that's what we've been focusing on for over a decade. And our current priority is to really advance a regional climate action movement that deploys bold, equitable solutions to the climate crisis and builds the region's capacity to lead the state in climate action. And we do this in 3 main areas. One is building carbon zero communities. The other is promoting nature-based solutions to draw down legacy carbon emissions. And the last is protecting communities from unavoidable climate change impacts. And so we're an old organization, but we are relatively new to the workforce development space. Most of our work in this space has really been centered on getting to know people and building partnerships. And we've been able to do that through a collaboration with the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. We call them LACI, or LACI for short. You'll probably hear me use that acronym over the course of the presentation. So LACI is the City of Los Angeles's official clean tech business incubator, and they were established to accelerate the commercialization of clean technology and also to accelerate job creation in the Los Angeles region. So how we came to partner with them is LACI got a grant from the California Energy Commission to expand their services and their programs to regions outside of LA County, and that included Santa Barbara and Ventura County. So we are their regional partner, and we really support LACI with both diffusing clean tech innovation and building partnerships with different groups in those 2 counties. We do a little bit of that in San Luis Obispo County, but it's not a main focus for the grant funding that LACI has. And so this grant funding will run through June 2023. And so part of what we get to do through that project with LACI is to identify partnerships, identify pilot projects, and secure funding to implement different clean tech solutions across the region. And we get to do that with the LACI affiliated startup companies. There are more than 50 of these companies. I'm just lifting up an example of one of the companies. This is Charger Help. And so what they do is they enable on-demand repair of electric vehicle charging stations. Electric vehicle charging stations do need operation and maintenance support. So their company works at the intersection of that market, and they also support workforce development, adult learning, to really build the workforce that's going to be servicing these charging stations. And to support that workforce development, they collaborate with groups like workforce development boards to create partnerships and really train and hire people from local communities to be EV charging station technicians. According to Charger Help staff, these technician jobs can pay a wage of $39 per hour, or about $80,000 per year. And it really requires just a few weeks of training for people to learn the basics. College background is not necessary. So this is really a good example of a job opportunity that provides a pathway, right, to a high road job. So one of the other programs that we get to work with the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator on is their Advanced Prototyping Center Fellowship Program. And so this is a program that provides multi-tiered workforce training. It is really intended to create a pipeline to technical training, interpersonal skills, and industry recognized certifications so that the participants can move on to succeed in the green economy. Participants in the program are paired with startups that work with Lacey, as well as partners, so that they can take on internships and begin to build their experience in the green, clean space. And that's all part of Lacey's mission to build an inclusive green economy. And so this slide is, it's pulled from a deck that Lacey has on their most recent cohort. So they have cohorts, 1 to 2 cohorts a year that move through this program. And it really shows the type of certifications, right, that they're getting. In this case, the cohort focused on EV charging station maintenance. They received certifications in NFPA 70E for electrical safety, SP2, which is focused on safety and pollution, and the MAX 609 automotive refrigeration and recovery certifications. And so the APC fellowship, one note about it is that it operates out of a makerspace. So it was really interesting to hear the previous presentation from Julia Stinton-Praniski, who really was highlighting, I think, some work that's happening across the region to build out those types of labs. It's something that we've actually been in dialogue about with Matter Lab and a couple partners in Ventura County to see if there might be opportunities to create something similar in Ventura and or Santa Barbara County that would allow people to have access to equipment and really use that equipment to build their skill sets. So a lot of that work has really centered in Ventura County so far. We had a conversation with Ray, which is how we came to be in front of you today about that work. And so what we've done in Ventura County is we've collaborated with their workforce development board to create a new subgroup that is looking at how we can identify the largest labor markets and also identify emerging occupations in the green, clean space so that we can really target workforce training and job placement programs in the right areas. So CEC has really been more of a partner in building out the network and starting conversation about this. And what has emerged out of that conversation is a collaboration to create a green, clean occupation list with Center of Excellence. And so they have already started that work. And what they'll do is they'll use that list to basically do a labor market analysis, starting with Ventura County, but eventually scaling up to Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties, as well as northern Los Angeles County. And we got an update from Dr. Adele Herman, who's working on that occupation list, I think a week or so ago. She said that they're now actually planning to scale that analysis across the state. So they'll be doing some statewide labor market analysis, which is really exciting to hear. And so there's a lot of opportunity here. As you all know, there's federal investment coming our way. The California Workforce Development Board recently released a high road climate jobs report. And they are targeting investment in these areas, as are other state agencies like the California Energy Commission. And then at the local and regional level, we also have community choice energy programs that will be able to provide investment to support green, clean workforce development. That's what many of the community choice energy programs that have been operating for longer periods of time in California have done. They have targeted investment to support workforce development with underserved communities in particular, so that they can support things like solar installations, weatherization, building energy efficiency, and all of that connects to the type of work that we're hoping to do, that we're already doing with 3C Ren. And so, one funding opportunity that we've shared a little bit of information with Ray about is the Zero Emission Vehicle Ideal Workforce Pilot funding opportunity. This is coming from the California Energy Commission, and the purpose is to fund projects that will build local pathways to jobs in the zero emission vehicle sector. It's offering over 6 million in grant funds, and excuse the typo in this slide. But yeah, there's 6 million in grant funds, and the application due date is going to be December 2nd on 5 p.m. in the evening. So I think we'll be having some more conversation with partners about that, including Ray's team, and just really excited to see where these conversations go and to explore how we can build more partnership with the Santa Barbara County Workforce Development Board, as well as groups like REACH that are already doing really incredible work to support economic and workforce development in the region. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Danny so he can tell you more about the project we have with 3C Ren.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thanks, Cam. Yeah, I have some slides as well that I can share. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, thanks for having me today, and thanks to Cam for kind of setting up, especially the work that Community Environmental Council is doing. My name is Danny Edelson. I'm an Energy and Transportation Program Associate at Community Environmental Council as well. And I can talk a little bit about some additional work that CEC is doing. Like Cam said, we're kind of wading into the workforce development world, and especially interested in learning more how that intersects with our plans for climate action. So one thing I wanted to do just at the front is say that in my work, I'm trying to have as many conversations as possible with people that have a good understanding of the workforce development needs, especially for building electrification, transportation electrification too. So kind of an open invitation to anybody who would like to have a follow-up conversation about workforce development needs as we kind of transition our buildings into being carbon neutral or zero carbon. I'll put my email in the chat here, and then also a link to the program that I'll get into talking about now. Yes, so Community Environmental Council and myself, we are partnered with the Tri-County Regional Energy Network on this multifamily home energy savings program that actually just recently launched on October 12th. And I figured just because of the order here, our colleagues at 3C Ren, Sean and Ian, will probably give you a little bit more context to the structure of 3C Ren. But just the very basics is that the Tri-County Regional Energy Network is a collaboration between these three counties, Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo. And the goals are to design and administer a portfolio of regional customized energy efficiency programs. And really the 3C Ren offers free services for both professionals and households, so that industry training events, technical and soft skill training, energy code compliance support, all of those things are offered. And then for households, free and discounted upgrades to reduce energy use at home are also on offer. So it's really a collaboration between utilities and the California Public Utilities Commission and the three counties involved to take ratepayer dollars that everybody pays on their utility bills and invest them back in our region as a way to strengthen the economy, build a robust local workforce, and also create a larger market in our region for energy efficiency, especially because in the past, programs targeted for energy efficiency have kind of missed the Central Coast region and had kind of a lesser investment. So I'm sure that Sean and Ian will probably give a little bit more context to 3C Ren in general, but I thought it would be good to kind of set levels there so that I can go into this multifamily home energy savings program. So the multifamily home energy savings program is an incentive program for multifamily properties in the three counties to get rebated upgrades for installing home energy savings measures. The eligibility is pretty similar, pretty simple. It just has to be a multifamily property with 5 or more units and just needs to receive utility service from one of these utility companies, PG&E, SCE, or SoCalGas. And that also includes any customers that are participating in a community choice energy agency. The program is structured to be a whole building rebate program. And so for underserved properties, and that's kind of defined here, can be affordable housing or an AB 1550 low income community or a disadvantaged community as defined by SB 535. Those are eligible for a higher level of rebate, so up to $750 per apartment unit. But if you don't meet that qualification, it's $500 per unit. And we measure kind of what the actual greenhouse gas emissions savings would be once installed to measure what properties would be eligible. And then a great thing in addition is trying to kind of kickstart this market for some of these building electrification technologies. So especially some of these all electric heat pump water heater systems or heat pump heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. The program has some additional rebates. So in addition to that $500 or $750 per unit, if you install some of these extra measures, there's an additional rebate. And the list of measures is pretty comprehensive, just generally things that would save energy in a multifamily building so that it can include hot water systems, heating, ventilation, and cooling, anything from duct sealing, smart thermostats, or replacing the system with a heat pump. It can also include lighting and replacing appliances, and then also kind of building envelope measures to improve the air sealing and insulation of a building. Those are all included. And one of the key pieces of this program that I think is really great is that it's a no-cost technical assistance to anybody who is participating. So a partner on the program, Association for Energy Affordability, provides this technical assistance and helps to develop a scope of work to implement it, and then can also help to layer or seek out additional state programs to see what additional funding is available to implement these energy saving measures. So this is the process of just participating. You fill out an online interest form at first. That's the link that I put into the chat, and go through this consulting process, establish a list of measures, and then reserve your rebate, install the upgrades, and then claim the rebate for those measures that were installed. And just to give a little bit of context of why this program is relevant in our region. So there's around 80,000 multifamily units in the Tri-County region, and over half of these units were installed prior to 1979, before there was any building energy standards. And in each of these counties, most of these multifamily properties are renter occupied, and a good portion of renters earn less than $50,000 and have a high energy burden. And so by participating in this program, the benefits of having improved, lessened utility bills go more towards people that have a higher energy burden or live in these buildings that were constructed before that there were high energy standards in place. Just a couple things to note about the benefits of the program. First of all, we can help our region to meet greenhouse gas emission reduction goals, but a lot of benefits also come along with that. We have improved utility bills, both for the property owners and for the tenants. Both the indoor and the outdoor air pollution are improved, and that improves the health of residents. And then more in line with workforce development, there's a lot of potential and a lot of things on the way for this, all of this work to transition our buildings to be really high performing or switch to all electric appliances, but it's kind of at its early stages, and that market needs to be kickstarted. And so having a program like this does a lot to bring some of that business into the region and help to establish a workforce that's able to complete the work. Last thing I wanted to touch on is just that the way that this program got started was an interesting one. It was kind of a pilot program in partnership. 3C Ren partnered with People's Self-Help Housing. They identified farm worker housing that could kind of participate in an early version of this project where 3 separate units of farm worker housing were identified and energy improvements were installed along these lines. And then, once this installation was completed, it kind of served as a model to building out the larger program. And so with this program where they installed energy improvements, they kind of had these goals of reducing utility costs for the residents, improving the kind of comfort of the residents as well through improved lighting quality and better comfort and air quality. And then also overall reducing the CO2 emissions that were associated with that building. So as they went through this program, they had a couple of, a bunch of measures that were installed. They improved the lighting and the shower heads. They improved the envelope of the building. They installed over 200, I believe, heat pump water heaters in the units, and are currently in the process of installing solar panels to help offset energy use on site as well. And like I said, this was, kind of a proof of concept that worked out well and then was able to be adapted into this larger program to serve, any and all multifamily properties across the region. And just a quick note on, kind of the early stage impact of what we're seeing at installation of at these sites. In the darker green lines, you can see kind of before the measures were installed, what their kind of combined electricity and gas use was as a property. And then in those lighter green lines, you can see the results that have come in so far that, through March through July, their overall energy use has decreased dramatically just from installing these measures to improve the lighting, especially these heat pump water heaters. And that made a big difference in the overall energy use and also in the bills of the tenants. And so that installation, really served as a good model to help set up this program. And then, like I said, with the kind of larger goal in mind of taking this sector, this opportunity for building electrification and the ability to kind of use that as a model to develop a workforce that's able to complete these kind of high impact jobs. So that's it for me. Like I said, please open invitation to anybody who's interested in talking about these things more. And if you happen to know anybody in a multifamily property or has interest, you can use that link to sign up as well. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to my colleagues at 3C Ren. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Danny. And thank you, Ray, for inviting us to be here today. I'm going to share my screen quickly. I'll just pull that up. Perfect. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. And thank you, Cameron, and thank you, Danny, for sharing more about programs you're working on and programs we're working on together. And just a little background, one of the reasons, beyond our multifamily program that we wanted to work with Community Environmental Council is we're both learning about workforce development as we go, but they have great connections with the community and really wanted to work together to create space for workforce in both of our programs. So today, myself and my colleague Ian, who's also on the line, will share a bit more about 3C Ren, our programs at a high level, and specifically our workforce education and training program as well. So to back out, my name is Sean Burns. I'm a program specialist with 3C Ren. I work out of the county of Santa Barbara, and I work primarily on our building industry programs. And I'll let Ian introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Ian Logan. I am kind of Sean's counterpart out of the county of Ventura. also serving as a program administrator for 3C Ren.
Great. All right. And as Danny mentioned a little bit already, so 3C Ren, or the Tri-County Regional Energy Network, is a collaborative partnership between the 3 counties of San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura. And one of our main goals is to improve energy efficiency in our region through programming that is really customized for our region. And we offer services for industry professionals, events and trainings and support for compliance, as well as Danny was talking about home upgrades for local residents as well.
Yeah, so we are funded by ratepayer dollars. So the benefit of being ratepayer funded is that there's no cost to those that we serve with our programs and resources. And as a regional energy network, we're able to return these dollars back to our local economy, which Danny noted has historically missed out on some of these funds. Typically, the utilities are required to host similar energy efficiency programs, but historically they've been concentrated in the Bay and LA basin. So in 2019, 3C Ren was formed to kind of bridge that service and resource gap. And through our programs, we can help strengthen the economy with sustainable industries, creating a more well-trained and reliable workforce to meet the growing demand of energy efficient buildings.
Great. And I like this little graphic, as opposed to the investor-owned utilities, PG&E and SoCalGas, we really have a local flavor for serving our workforce. And hopefully, we're taking a holistic approach to doing that as well. So not only are we engaging our public sector staff at the local building departments, but we're also talking to the architects and the contractors, and we're talking to the residents too. So we're really trying to take a comprehensive approach to how we're using energy in our community and build capacity within the building industry here locally.
Yeah, so we've kind of identified some of our service gaps, and the current 3 programs that we offer are our Energy Code Connect program, our Building Performance Training program, and our Home Energy Savings program. I would say the Building Performance Training program and the Energy Code Connect program are primarily focused on workforce development and education. And we will speak to them in the next few slides.
Exactly. Thank you, Ian. And so Energy Code Connect, like Ian was saying, is really an industry focused program. So again, we're serving all of building professionals in our region. That includes public and private sectors. So like our plans examiners, our building inspectors, and the folks at the building and safety counters in our region, as well as architects, designers, contractors, and other building industry professionals. So the primary focus of Energy Code Connect is to really help demystify California's energy code. And you might know, you might not know, that code is updated every 3 years, and we're in another update cycle right now. So there's a lot to unpack for professionals in a normal year, and how to navigate some of these code specifications, and especially in a year where we have new code updates coming out. We really want to help our building professionals navigate those changes, make sure they're prepared and able to work with them as well. So we kind of do so and able to serve our professionals through some of the trainings and support that we offer. So we do host a variety of different training modules around the energy code. We have regional forums, which I'll touch on a little in the next slide, which is a great opportunity for the energy code and other issues in our counties to kind of come together. And for 2 hours, 3 hours, we're able to talk about these a little more comprehensively with our industry folks. And then one of our main services is the Energy Code Coach, which is an on-demand, over the phone, in the field service where building professionals are able to reach out to one of our specialists, ask a question, and get an answer about the energy code, hopefully to help speed their projects up and demystify something they have an issue with. So simply put, we want to make the energy code easier to follow along with.
Yeah, so Sean noted we host regional forums. We host them typically quarterly, and they are kind of an opportunity to take a step back from more of the technical code knowledge and kind of serve as a networking opportunity for the industry professionals. Yeah, so we focus on emerging trends and code updates, challenges and opportunities in its application. Our upcoming forum is on November 4th, and we're focusing on energy efficiency's role in densification and housing affordability. A lot there, but we will hear from code officials, designers, and other housing industry professionals on the housing market impacts and strategies for improving comfort and efficiency in these non-traditional living spaces. You know, backyard residences and ADUs are becoming more and more prevalent in our area, and we feel it is great to address kind of maybe some of the stigmas for or against them, and also relate that back to our building workforce and kind of keeping them up with the trend and how to, you know, implement these things.
Perfect. Thank you, Ian. And again, this is our next program, Building for Performance Training, which is really our kind of main workforce education and training program. So if Energy Code Connect really focuses on trainings around just the energy code, building performance training allows us to do a lot more for the building industry overall, primarily concerning our green buildings, high performance buildings, and kind of just basic building skills as well. So we get to cover a lot more with this program. Again, we're serving both private and public building professionals, but our specific focus as well is to really serve underserved and hard to reach workers. Again, like Ian was mentioning, we've had IOU trainings in the past, but historically, you know, this region as a whole has missed out, and especially folks who have additional barriers like English language learners or rural or geographically isolated folks as well. So we're really trying to reach them with our programs. So we offer technical skills like building science principles, topics like air sealing and what heat pumps are, zero net energy. But unique to this program is our soft skills focus too. So not only do we want to enable folks with the technical skills, but we want them to communicate these skills too, to help them grow their business, to communicate with a client, to even figure out why learning about high performance building may be of benefit to them in the first place. And we get to serve different sectors of the building industry. I'll let Ian talk about that a little more in the next slide. But we really want to help equip workers to thrive in an industry that changes and evolves and ebbs and flows all the time. Help them, whether they're a new professional, a prospective professional, or someone in the industry and looking to change or add to their skills. We want building performance training to be that program for them.
Yeah, so this is kind of a good illustration of some of the past offerings. We have hosted kind of a whole slew of different topics, from green real estate marketing to certification courses for passive house designers, and then kind of more entry-level things for entry-level workers or homeowners, as well as we've done some guest speaker workshops with students for the local community colleges, and are definitely looking to expand these efforts in the coming years surrounding kind of childhood education and K through 12 stakeholder outreach. We have also recently taken a dive into reaching our broader agriculture network, working with an organization called the Resource Innovation Institute. So you will also see some varied trainings on cannabis cultivation in our region. If you'd like to kind of get a feel for what our trainings look like, most of our trainings are hosted on our on-demand page on our website.
Absolutely, and I did just link our website in the chat box. Thank you, Ian. And I think just of note too, for our building performance training program, we've done great work We've reached out to the real estate professionals. We're bordering on some agriculture training as well. But we do still have some gaps, and especially coming out of the pandemic, we did a quick transition to some of our bringing our trainings online, making them available on demand. But we do recognize, and we have heard from a lot of our professionals, that returning to in-person and field training is especially important. So that's kind of one of our goals for 2022, is really to bring some of that hands-on learning back. And not everyone has the virtual accessibility that some people find favorable. So we really are trying to diversify our offerings again, improve our language accessibility for our Spanish-speaking workers and our English language learners. We're also trying to bundle some of our training modules in a way that gives them a suite of skills at the end of a training series. So not only just attending one training and kind of being left there, but really being able to deliver a full skills series to them. And again, we're expanding our partnerships, hopefully reaching out to more organizations and broadening the reach we have. For example, we've been working with Women's Economic Ventures. They have a great suite of business trainings, and we want to be able to offer some of those trainings to our attendees as well. And one of the other benefits is with our home energy savings programs coming online, like Danny was talking about. We'll also have kind of the built-in capacity to hopefully get some contractors, our workforce, set up with some of the jobs we're talking about, and hopefully strengthen the case to enter the high performance buildings and energy efficiency space even further.
So the home energy savings, just to reiterate a few things about what Danny said, we serve households that are historically underserved, including residents whose primary language is not English, as well as low-income households, rural communities, and renters. So it's definitely a flexible program. We offer simple upgrades like LED light bulbs, smart thermostats, and power strips for free, and then discounted upgrades that provide greater savings, like the heat pump water heaters that Danny was speaking of, other Energy Star appliances, new windows, and insulation upgrades. And then there's always that no-cost technical assistance available during your project while you work with your contractor. The program ultimately helps you and your tenants save money while making your home safer, healthier, more comfortable, and more valuable.
Perfect. And Danny already touched on our multifamily program. And just of note as well, our single family program will be coming online hopefully next year, and really will be a great touch point to engage with our local contractors who will be able to participate and bid for some of the jobs that come out of that program.
So a lot there between CEC's and Sean and I's presentation, but thank you for the time. For those of you who are new to our network, welcome. We encourage you to check out our website. We have a ton of resources, including those on-demand trainings, the Energy Code Coach inquiry form, and as well as the Home Energy Savings inquiry form. We are always looking to hear from our stakeholders as well. So if you have any suggested trainings or resources that you would like to see from us that would address gaps in the trades or construction industry, feel free to reach out. Our website and email will be on the next slide.
Perfect. And that's all we have for you. I really want to thank you for your time and appreciate Ray inviting us to talk to you today. And again, yeah, like Ian said, reach out if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer them.
Well, let me jump in and chat just a little bit before we see if there are questions from the board. Again, I want to thank you, Cameron, Danny, Sean, and Ian for this excellent presentation. This is, again, we've had our first conversation together, and what's going forward appears to be a need for connectivity between the workforce arena as well as some of the energy things that you're doing. One of our designated industry sectors, which workforce boards have to have, is energy and the environment. And so this kind of lines us up a little bit that way. But we need to continue to have our conversations at the staff level and see where we can do some things together going forward. So again, I want to thank you for, on a fairly quick notice, agreeing to come and present at our board. I know this is a lot of information for my board members to take in. I see that Sandra, I'm sorry, Chuck has a question, but I'll turn it back to Sandra to let her facilitate the Q&As. But I just wanted to thank you guys for coming by and again, starting the conversation.
Thank you very much, Ray. I appreciate that. Chuck, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, through the board. So well, I noticed that, the focus of your presentation was strictly the demand side and, of energy. And I mean, we have some issues, local 430 and stuff with the supply side and the procurement going forward for sure, because I don't know if the board knows, but, a lot of these community choice aggregate have now banded together, where there's 10 together that are joint powers authority for California. So a lot of the local control, is going kind of being seated that way as far as procurement. And so my concerns are going forward that there's some enforceable labor standards. I know what's been proposed so far has been things that aren't enforceable. I don't know, maybe you're the demand side only, but on the procurement side, there's definitely some issues. We would like to see like unbundled recs, prohibited and different things. So I don't know if that's in your expertise here, but I'd like to see our workforce development board, support going forward on the supply side, that local jobs that use local apprenticeship programs, so on and so forth moving forward. Because if there's no enforceable labor standard things in this, then they won't happen, in my experience in the past. So it has to be enforceable. It needs to say shall instead of may. And and we want these jobs to stay local. And if there's nothing that's enforceable, they will not stay local. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've seen this come and go so many times, and it just doesn't happen. It just goes to the lowest price. And a lot of the jobs that are going to be replaced on utility side are head of household jobs. And I'd hate to see them be replaced with jobs that are not head of household jobs. So I don't know if you're available. And also the environmental community. We want to band together the environmental community and make sure we have local workers on there that keep an eye on our local environment, make sure that that's taken care of. So I know you did demand side stuff, but I kind of sat here thinking about all this stuff, and there was nothing about the supply side that could be interrupted here and replaced with something that maybe not as desirable as we'd want.
Good comments, Chuck. So as I said, I'm going to continue to have conversations with Cameron, Ian, and Danny and Sean. And so what I'll do, I'll certainly chat with you, Chuck, to make sure that I get a full understanding of the comments that you're making and some of those issues that you're bringing forward, so that we can address those as we go forward. Because
I appreciate that, Ray.
Yeah, I know that the presenters here today want to move forward in as collaborative a way as possible, and certainly not to undermine efforts by unions. So very good.
Yeah, and if I may, Ray, just one note about that. We've done some advocacy on labor standards recently, particularly with Central Coast Community Energy. And so definitely we're happy to talk with you more about that, Chuck. Most of our advocacy has been aligned with the local labor union advocacy, calling for things like, project labor agreements that will help to keep the work local. But I think that's an area where we want to continue to expand our collaboration and our efforts.
I'd be happy to continue that discussion. And yeah, we've had a lot of help from the environmental community. I'm not saying we haven't. I just think that it's a work that we're in progress that really needs to, it happens on the front end. If it doesn't happen on the front end, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, and certainly the environmental community has some work to do just to make sure that we're listening and fully understanding the labor union perspectives on these issues. So that's what we're really wanting to do more of, is just, build that conversation and really understand the priorities of the local unions.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Any other comments? Anthony, do we have any public comments on this topic?
We do not have any new public comment requests.
Okay. Our next item is just our next board meeting is January 28th. So if you make sure that you calendar that item. And at this point, that will be an in-person meeting with some remote options. We'll work all of that out per our earlier agenda item.
Right, I'll work with you, Sandra, on that so that we can make sure that we're providing the support to folks for whatever option they choose.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all for the meeting.
Yep. Take care.